Hello, everybody, again. This is Brandon, also known as Super Fanboy Guy, and we are here on the fourth episode of the Golden Guardians podcast. And with me, as usual, is my partner in crime, Mr. Jacob Wheeler. Jacob, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for that awesome introduction.
Thanks. So I heard you got a little thunderstorm back home, right?
I do. The schools are like closing 2 hours early and everything. It's pretty ridiculous.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I don't know why I just woke up this morning. My allergies were killing me, but I took a Zyrtec, and I hopefully will be good to go after that.
I hate allergies. The season is upon us for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so if you all tune in with us on our last episode, we decided to have a vote to see what deck you wanted to see on the next episode of our podcast. And in case you haven't read the title of the fourth episode yet, you'll know that the Moloids Burn deck is going to be the deck that we're going to talk about in this episode. And just really quick, I wanted to go over the poll results of all the teams that we did. So this was on the the poll results came from both the Versus System Collective group on Facebook and on YouTube. And so I want to share everybody really quick the votes that we got for all the decks. So the Moloids Burn deck was 15 votes. Xbox came in at 13 votes. Black Bamboo was at 11 votes. Combex was at 1 vote, and Quick Voltage was at 1 vote as well. And surprisingly, I left when I posted the poll in the Facebook group. I kind of left you know how you have that option where you can have people add like their own vote to it. Well, I just wanted to say that we had someone named Charlie Cancino add another team affiliation to the poll, and that was the Ultimates, which had 7 votes. And I don't know, is Ultimates considered a competitive Golden Age deck? Are you familiar with that at all?
It's not considered competitive, but I mean most of the decks are like super fun. I mean, I hope in the future to do a thing with you where we talk about like the tier 1.5 decks, which are basically all the decks that didn't cut that top 8 or top 10 decks that we're going to try and go over in this series. And there's a lot, and I mean, I wouldn't doubt that Ultimates is among that list.
Yeah, we might throw in the Ultimates after in a future episode for sure. But thank you for Charlie for adding in that suggestion. We'll definitely have to look into that. But I figured since we got all of these the votes from the poll results, I figured maybe we should do that in order, like do Moloids Burn, Xbox, Black Bamboo, Quick Voltage, and then Convex. Because it was actually kind of funny because I was checking the poll periodically on the group, and Convex actually there was a point where I had no votes, so it's like not a lot of people were interested in seeing that
Poor
deck. So
Convex, man. Poor
yeah,
Convex.
no,
Such a misunderstood deck.
yeah, and I think it's because maybe people have seen the Exiles deck or they just don't like it. But I think we might do it in that order, for the rest of the season one of our podcast anyway, and then we'll
That
talk.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. But anyway, enough talking about that stuff. So we're here to talk about the Moloids Burn deck. Yeah, sorry, that's kind of a tongue twister for me.
It is. It
um,
is.
so Jake, is there anything that you want to kind of talk about this deck before we get into the deck profile and the details about it?
Yeah. So I think most decks, especially when we look at combo style decks, which is definitely what this is. It's like a combo burn situation. Most of most of the decks that exist like this have a sense of a silver bullet answer, or like, oh well, if I just do this, it just kind of shuts you down. But I think that the cool thing with Golden Age as a whole is the format is so versed that like you can't just say like, oh, I'm gonna have this in my deck. Well, you lose to Flame Trap. It's like, but not every deck can fit Flame Trap in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just as an example, so when we're going through decks like this, or in the future of this season, the other decks, just realize that not every deck can fit in like a Human Torch, right? Not every deck can fit in Flame Trap. So you're really banking, just kind of like Bosun Buddies, you're really banking on them, not having that silver bullet answer, which won't happen every time, and it could even cut you to top 8, just never seeing that
Now,
answer.
now,
So
what Human Torch are you referring to in particular?
I'm referring to the 6 drop one that says that you can't be the target, and cards you own can't be the target of.
Oh, the Herald one. Yeah, that we
Yeah,
mentioned in previous episodes. Okay.
it shuts a lot of decks down. I mean, even when we move into like our season 2 podcasts, I mean, Human Torch Herald can shut, I mean, most of that stuff down.
Right. Okay. So, if there's nothing else, let's just go into your deck profile.
So the people have spoken, and Moloids Burn is it. And here's the deck. So we are going to start off with our characters and our one cost, which is quite a few actually. So our first one cost character is Moloids itself. It's from Marvel Heralds of Galactus. It's a Doom affiliate, and you're going to see a reoccurring theme with this. We're going to have Injustice Gang and Doom, and those are going to be the two teams for this. So Moloids, one cost, Doom, 2 attack, 1 defense, range, and you can exhaust a character you control named Doctor Doom or named Moloid Man or Mole Man. Is that it? Yeah, Mole Man. That's another tongue twister.
Yeah.
So, once you do that, you can put Moloids from your KO pile into your front row, and you can only use it during the build phase, and only if he's in your KO pile. So, obviously Moloids is an army character, and you can have as many of those things out as you want. It doesn't check for, it doesn't use the uniqueness issue or anything like that with army characters. Most of you guys should know this by now, obviously. We won't be using Moloid's actual effect very much. I think that there's going to be one turn, maybe another turn, like 2 turns in the entire game, in the entire curve, where we're going to actually use Moloids and cheat them into play from the graveyard. But you'll see the combo here in a minute. Moving on, we're going to have 10 copies of Illusionary Warriors. This is another army character. He's going to have the Injustice Gang team affiliation. So he's a 1/1 from DC's Justice League. He's concealed, and he has the ally keyword. And whenever a character you control becomes powered up, you can exhaust Illusionary Warriors, and if you do, target character gets -2 attack this attack. This effect does not matter at all. All we're really looking for is a 1-cost army Injustice Gang character. So we are going to move on with that. And quick thing here. So it's looking like we have 18, I believe, 18 army characters. So if this list seems a little short, this is because most of the slots where we would have a 2-cost, multiple 2-costs, multiple 6-costs, these are all packed into just cramming a ton of 1-cost army characters into the deck.
And also, I want to mention that in this deck profile, all we have is plot twists and characters, so no locations or equipments or stuff like that as well.
Yeah, this list is super simple, really to the point, and if your opponent doesn't have the answer, they just kind of lose. So, moving on, we've got Boris. Everybody should know who this guy is.
Yes, one of my favorite awesome 1-drops. I've used him since he was first printed in Origins, so Marvel Origins.
Yeah, he's incredible. I loved him in Marvel Origins. I still really like him now, and his price is on the up and up. As I've noticed, the same with Alfred Pennyworth.
Right. Right.
Yeah, as time is going on, the cost of those two guys have gone up a couple bucks.
And it's really crazy because I just want to add that Boris and Alfred Pennyworth have been reprinted in, they in their respective origin sets. So Alfred was in DC Origins, Boris was in Marvel Origins, and then they got reprinted in, Boris got reprinted in Marvel Legends, and Alfred got reprinted in World's Finest. And they both came in EA form as well.
They did, yeah. I forgot about that. They did. And props to anyone who has the EA forms. I actually don't have them.
I actually have one EA Boris, and I've been trying to get the other 3 for my Doom deck for a while, but either I see them, like somebody posts that they have them, and then by the time I message them, he's already sold them, or there's some ridiculous price on eBay that's like 3 times as much as he's actually worth.
Yeah, there's a couple of I know this doesn't have anything to do with the deck, but there's a couple of like eBay posts. Maybe we'll cover it when we have an episode of finances. But there's a couple of things on there that are like $600 for something that Category 1 Games has for like a couple bucks that are EA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that Joanna Cargill that we talked about last time. Like what if you found somebody selling that for $500? Be like, get out of here.
Oh man, I need to. I'm in the wrong business, man. I gotta PSA my cards and get them on eBay or something.
I guess so.
But Boris, personal servant of Doctor Doom, he is a 1-cost character. It's a 1 attack, 1 defense, Doom affiliation. Been reprinted a couple times, and you can activate him and put him on the bottom of your deck, and anything behind the straight arrow. If you guys didn't know this, anything behind the straight arrow going to the right, not the activate symbol, but the actual arrow moving to the right. Anything before that is a requirement to put the ability on the chain or the stack or whatever people say these days for trading card games. I believe it's the chain for versus, right?
Yes.
Chaining reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh so much.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, we have to activate it and put him on the bottom of our deck, and then his effects will go on the chain, right? And once it resolves, we can search our deck for a plot twist card, reveal it, and put it into our hand. And we can only use this if we control Doctor Doom. But moving on, we've got we don't have any 2-cost characters, but we do have 2 separate 3-cost characters that we're going to be using. These 2 guys are super, super important. So we have 4 copies of Doctor Doom, Richard's Rival. This is going to be the 3-drop Doctor Doom. I can't decide whether or not I like the 3-drop or the 4-drop for Marvel Origins better.
Ooh,
The
the one that.
Diabolical Genius.
Yes, he's always a classic, and
He is.
I think a lot of people have kind of debated which one was better, the 3-drop or the 4-drop. I mean, the 3-drop you do get it out a turn early, but I mean the Diabolic Genius is just, I think he's more. I guess it technically, in my opinion, I guess it's like the 3-drop. Doctor Doom is good for aggro decks, and the 4-drop is good for like a stall control deck, in my opinion, anyway.
I think you're spot on, man. And also, depending on which one you run, some people choose to run because there's 2 different Doomsdaunts too, right? There's one for attack and one for defense.
Right. Well, I think the one for defense came out first in Origins, and then the attack one came out from Heralds of Galactus.
It
right?
did, yeah, it did. And I know I've had a lot of discussions with people, especially back on the Zeta board forums from way back when. I think it's like Tap Talk now or something weird like that. But anyway,
Okay.
if your main thing is the 3-drop Doctor Doom, people are running the +3 attack to get in that damage early,
Right.
and to kind of use like counter stun tactics against a 4-drop. And then if you're going for more of a stall situation, people are preferring the 4-drop with the +3 defense Doomsdaunt.
Right.
I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Doomsdaunt.
Doomsdaunt. Yeah, something like something like that.
Yeah. But anyhow, so this 3-drop Doctor Doom, Richard's Rival, he's from Marvel Heralds of Galactus. He has range. He's a Doom affiliate, obviously. He's got 5 attack, 4 defense. And when he comes into play, you can search your deck for a plot twist card. Obviously, reveal it, shuffle your deck, and then put that plot twist on top of your deck. And he has another really interesting ability where you can KO a character you control and replace a resource you control. And obviously, when you replace a resource, you're moving from the top of your deck. So you're actually getting that plot twist that you just fetched out and cheating it into play by KOing a character you control. But moving on, we've got Zazala, right? And this can be a 3-cost Zazala Queen Bee. And I was always pronouncing her Zazalia, but I guess now that I'm actually looking at the card and reading it,
Oh, those damn pronunciations.
I know, man. I know. It's the worst.
They make us look bad.
They do. That mixed with like the really funny stigma behind card players that cannot pronounce anything. Like you'll look at like Yu-Gi-Oh or something. Ragakai. I'm gonna play Ragakai or Molide.
Actually, the thing that gets me is when people pluralize things that shouldn't be pluralized.
Yeah.
Like I say I'm from New York City's. I'm like, no, it's New York City. It is singular. There's not more than one New York City. I mean, maybe there is in the world somewhere. Maybe there's another New York City, like in England or something like that. But maybe. I don't know. But or Yu-Gi-Ohs. People, I hear people say I play the Yu-Gi-Ohs, and I'm like, no, it's Yu-Gi-Oh. It's singular. But
I'm gonna recruit my Legionary Warriors and my Boar Ice, and
yes.
oh my goodness. So our 3-cost Zazala Queen Bee, Villains United and Injustice Gang. She's from DC's Infinite Crisis set. 5 attack, 4 defense. She's concealed, and that is insanely important
She's
because of her
concealed
effect.
optional, so you don't
She's
have to.
concealed optional. Yes,
Yeah.
she is. We're always going to put her in the concealed area. There's never going to be a time where you put her invisible. And the reason why is because she has an ability that says whenever a character leaves play during the combat phase, target opponent loses 2 endurance. And this power triggers if Salia is stunned when she leaves play.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, incredible card. She is the glue that holds this whole thing together. You could not win the game. I mean, unless your opponent just stared at you for 6 turns straight. You could not win the game if she didn't exist. This deck would not exist without Sazala Queen Bee.
And I'm really glad. Like, this is the one thing that I love about Versus System and what the developers of the game really did well is that they wrote in parentheses, like, for this card, like, specific, like, this still triggers even if she's stunned.
Yeah. Yep.
I just love when they're really specific about cards. Like, if in case there's like some, if people question the ruling about it, at least like this one has like something. Yeah, it still triggers when this happens.
Right. Right. I agree. And here's our big combo piece here. Tattooed Man, Living Ink. This guy's from DC Justice League. He's in Justice Gang and Emerald's Enemy, but the fact that he's in Justice Gang is going to help us out a lot. He's got range. He's a 7 attack, 7 defense, which is a little low for 5 cost stats. He's got willpower 2, which isn't relevant here in this deck. Tattooed Man comes into play with 2+1/+1 counters, so it's going to bump him back up to a 9/9, which is about the standard for 5 drops in my opinion. You can remove any number of +1/+1 counters from Tattooed Man, and for each counter you removed, you can search your deck for an army character card with a cost of 1 and put it into your front row and shuffle your deck. And you can only use this power once per turn, but you can remove any number, right? But you can't put counters back on him and then remove them later on that turn to do the whole thing again. That would be bonkers. He'd probably be banned if you could do that.
Well, I
Or
know that
Rondo.
there's cards in the game like Heroic Effort that put +1/+1 counters on him, and I think what was the team affiliation that had kind of a +1/+1 theme? I think it was like Doom Patrol. Is that?
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I know that they had a couple of stuff that puts counters on characters too, but for the most part, it doesn't seem like. What's the best way to say this? Like, he just comes in with 2+1/+1 counters by himself, so I guess you don't really need. I mean, you could try to make your own build where you add more counters on him somehow, but even if you don't go that strategy, him getting the 2+1/+1 counters is just pretty decent.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty decent, and we're actually going to abuse this mechanic in a way that I don't think was intended to be abused, and we'll go over that in just a minute. Our next slot is I don't want to say controversial because that's a really strong word for a card game, but it is a little controversial in the way that, like, is this really the best slot to deal with, to put in this deck? But my decision was Teamwork. You can put anything in this slot that you feel like helps the deck. It is not mandatory that you run Teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
But
And this is going on to the plot twist, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're moving on to the plot twist here.
Okay.
For Teamwork, we don't want our team up to be destroyed. So I felt like this was a really good slot. It's just a 2 of, but not really necessary. It's a 1 cost. Obviously, the name's Teamwork. It's a plot twist. In case you haven't noticed, we've went ahead and transitioned. So this is from Marvel X-Men. It's an uncommon from there. You can discard a card, and if you do search your deck for a team up card, reveal it and put it in your hand and shuffle your deck. So it's a nice little tutor to go ahead and get an ongoing, which isn't necessary because we do have Doctor Doom and Boris, but those guys are going to search for other cards. And Teamwork has an awesome ongoing effect too. Team up resources you control can't be the target of plot twist effects your opponent controls. And man, in Golden Age, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so they have to
yeah,
deal. So let they Death of the Dream, like they can't exhaust their additional character because they have. If this is out, they have to get rid of this one.
right, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, and not every deck runs Death of the Dream. A lot of them just run Have a Blast or some other type of targeted removal, which is really nice.
And actually, I want to mention the artwork on Teamwork, for example. So you have Psylocke, Phoenix, and Rogue just kind of like chilling all through them, like they're having a girls' night out or something. But
Mm.
what's really interesting about this picture is like the Phoenix, she's this all powerful entity, right? And
Uh-huh.
now, granted, this could just be Jean Grey in the Phoenix costume. But when I think of Phoenix, I think of like the all powerful entity that's gonna like, have so much power and is super strong, and she's just like there chilling. But again, I just thought about, I thought it was kind of weird that the powerful Phoenix is hanging out with Psylocke and Rogue. But again, this could just be Jean Grey in the Phoenix costume.
It could be, or like you said, it could be Phoenix and Rogue could be in like a Brotherhood outfit. I don't know if I can see the X on her shoulder or not.
Oh,
And
yes,
Psylocke has been known to dabble in other like X Force and
other
other
teams,
stuff.
yeah.
So, who knows, man? But yeah, that's definitely pretty interesting. I always prefer Jean Grey in the Phoenix Force outfit.
Okay,
Even in
who do
video
you like
games.
better, Phoenix or Dark Phoenix?
Oh man,
Because I really
Phoenix.
I
Yeah,
honestly
just Phoenix.
just Phoenix. Okay, because I feel like your answer depends on what type of girl you like. If you like the good girl, you'd say Phoenix, but if you're in the bad girls, then you say Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, right. I feel like every time I've watched any type of movie or show with Dark Phoenix in it, it's just been so dramatic and angry, and I'm just like, oh,
Oh, that's true. Because we got the X Men Last Stand with her, and then the terrible Phoenix movie that we recently got.
oh man. I heard that because that was the actor for Game of Thrones, right? I can't remember the name.
Sophie Turner, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I heard. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that when they were like interviewing her, like when she just got like the role and everything, she's like, "Who's Jean Grey? Who's Phoenix?
Oh,
I don't know what you're talking about."
wow.
I was like, "Oh no, I don't know how true that is, but that's what I read somewhere online." But
I don't know.
anyhow,
I have to look that up somewhere.
yeah. Anyhow, our team up. We're moving on to two cost plot twist. Our team up for the deck to team up villains or Injustice Gang and Doom is going to be for the Glory of Doom. This is going to be another Heralds of Galactus set card. It's a team up, two cost plot twist. As an additional cost to play for the Glory of Doom, choose two different team affiliations, right? Typical wording for team ups. And the ongoing is obviously crossing them over. And it has an additional effect under the ongoing, so you can do this anytime. You can KO a Doom character you control, and target player loses 2 endurance. But you can only use that power once per turn, or that ability, or whatever we call it for plot twists these days. So many
Effect.
card games I play. Yeah. So now we're moving into the combo piece, and this is it. This is how we abuse Tattoo Man. Okay, and you're probably going to start to see a huge resemblance of actually how we win moving forward. So Devil's Due. I love this card. This card's so good. Have you played much with this plot twist?
I haven't actually.
Okay, so it's a 2 cost plot twist. It's from Marvel Spider-Man, right?
Mhm.
That garbage set, and so, Devil's Due plot twist ongoing. KO a character you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on target Doom character you control. Now, Tattooed Man isn't Doom, but with For the Glory of Doom, we're going to be teaming them up. We can fetch it out with Boris, Doctor Doom, and our 2 copies of Teamwork. So it's going to be pretty consistent. But here's the idea: we have Zazala, Queen Bee, in the hidden area. Right, is not
Mhm.
being touched, nothing like that. Every time something leaves play during the combat phase, a character leaves play during the combat phase, target opponent loses 2 endurance. So now we've got Tattooed Man. He already has 2+1/+1 counters, right? So we're gonna start KOing things to Tattooed Man to increase his counters, and then in one swoop we're going to remove all of those counters and cheat into play a really large amount of Moloids or Illusionary Warriors.
Okay.
So now, so all the characters that lost play from the first wave, your opponent gets burned for 2 for each one that hits the graveyard or the discard pile or whatever.
KO
And
pile,
now
yeah.
the KO pile, yeah. See, I play too many card games.
Yeah, I know that feeling too.
So now we've cheated into play like 5 or 6 Moloids characters, right? We
Mhm.
continue attacking, and then when we're done with everything in the combat phase, we KO them all to Tattooed Man again, and your opponent loses 2 endurance for each character we just KO'd.
Right.
So now Tattooed Man is the stats of a 6 cost or higher, right? And then the next turn we can just do it again if we still have a 1. And it's a pretty significant amount of burn damage. It's pretty cool, man. But yeah, that's Devil's Due. The deck has to have 4 copies of those things in there. It's not going to run without it. You don't have to use For the Glory of Doom, but you do need some type of team up because Devil's Due only puts the +1/+1 counter on a Doom character. So we can't combo with Tattooed Man unless they're teamed up. So that's an important thing to note. So moving on, we've got 4 copies of Master of Puppets. I like this card. It's not necessary in the deck, but I feel like it adds a little bit more umph to Zazala's effect. It's a 2-cost plot twist from the Marvel Heralds of Galactus set. As an additional cost to play Master of Puppets, exhaust a Doom character you control. And whenever a character is put into your KO pile from play, each opponent loses 1 endurance. And the cool thing is this stacks. So if you have multiple Master of Puppets, it's going to trigger for each one. Now, moving on, we're going to move on to more of our support cards now. We're still on some 2-cost plot twists, but we've got, this is one of my favorite plot twists, I kind of in the game really, is Secret Files. This has been reprinted in what was the set it was reprinted in?
It was in DC Legends, and
Yeah,
then
and
it was in, was it Justice League or Crisis? I can't remember which
I'm
one.
pretty sure it was Justice League.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. But it's 2 costs. You can play only if you control an Injustice Gang character, and each player in turn searches his deck for an affiliated character card and puts it into our hand. We don't really care what they search for because we're trying to win before turn 6 anyway. And there's nothing that they're going to be able to play that's really going to screw us up that bad. So Secret Files is a pretty safe card to play.
And
Outside of that, it's like, ugh, why would you play that card?
well, the thing I want to say about Secret Files, because I have an Injustice Gang deck that I obviously play this card in, and it's one of the very few search cards out there where you don't have to discard a card. The only downside is your opponents get to search for other cards that they, combo pieces for their deck.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think one of the very other few cards where you have to discard is the World's Finest card for the Man Who Has Everything. If you search for a Team Superman, you put it in your hand, and if you don't control a character of the same name, you discard a card. So ideally, the play with this that you want to do is if you have Last Son of Krypton out on the field, you can flip up for the Man Who Has Everything and get like the Metropolis Marvel and put it in your hand so you don't have to discard a card.
Interesting. Okay.
And then you play like Cadmus Labs or Superman Red to make them non-unique or whatever. And then you play the 5-drop Metropolis Marvel.
This didn't age well, but I really loved Blue Abuse from like way back in the day.
Yeah, I think a lot of if you're a hardcore Superman fan, that's definitely a deck that you probably still have in your collection somewhere.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool card. I've always wanted to team him up with Legionnaires. Legionnaires is just a trash team, but I feel like they go really well together with the Cosmic and stuff. But I haven't had time to fool with it.
Oh, interesting.
Moving on to our support, we're on 3-cost plot twist now. We've got 4 copies of Enemy of My Enemy. Shame on you if you don't know what this does. But as an additional cost to play it, you have to discard a character card. You search your deck for an affiliated character that does not share a printed affiliation with the card you discarded. Reveal that card and put it in your hand. And most people don't know this. I think we may have covered this on a different plot twist or on a different
podcast episode.
Yeah, podcast. Yeah, that's what. Man, I'm still trying to wake up. I am so sorry.
No, right. It's okay. It's all good. And also, that thunderstorm is like messing with your mind too. I think.
I know my dog's over here shaking in the corner, whimpering. It's a sad sight to see. So, Enemy of My Enemy, you can't fetch out a blank affiliated, non-affiliated character card. You can't do it, but you can discard a blank affiliated character card to fetch for a different affiliation because that card that you searched for did not share a printed affiliation.
Right, that's the one thing you can get around with that.
Yeah, but you can't do it the other way around for sure.
Right.
We've got Reign of Terror. right? Reign of Terror is our 4-cost plot twist. I feel like this is a must-have as a 4 of anytime you're running Doctor Doom. 4-cost plot twist, Reign of Terror from Marvel Origins, and you can play only from your hand and only if you recruited Doctor Doom this turn. And you can return any number of target characters with a combined cost of 3 or less to their owner's hand. This is awesome. If you're a Doom fan, I guarantee you probably run 4 of these in every deck you own, unless you're Playgroup Bandit or something. Are you a big Doctor Doom fan?
Of course, I have a Doctor Doom deck myself.
Nice. Do you have the Crisis Doom, or do you like that deck?
I actually don't have a Crisis Doom. I actually have it's an old Doctor Doom build that I got from a friend, and I told him that, if I wanted to make a Doctor Doom deck, I wanted to know what to do, and I didn't want to play Crisis Doom because I felt like, everybody plays Crisis Doom, so I wanted my Doom deck to be a little bit different. So I might share my my Doom deck on maybe like one of my deck profile videos on YouTube someday. But it's not a Crisis Doom. It's like just like a unique Doom. It's like when Heralds came out. This is the stuff that you ran, and it runs like the Puppet Master to No team affiliation that we covered in a previous episode on the Spider Saw episode. Yeah, the Philip Masters. That's it. It plays that. Yeah. Plus, it plays the Marvel Legends Puppet Master as well.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it's kind of a unique deck, and the thing is that. So yeah, I've always been a big fan of Doom, since he came out, and I actually just recently rebuilt my Doctor Doom deck. I think like last year, and it's and not the brag or anything, but it may be an all foil Doctor Doom deck.
Oh snap! That is the ultimate. That's the ultimate way of going about it.
Except the only problem with it is I do only have one EA Boris, and the rest of my three of my other Borises are just like Origins foils, which is sad, but
as long as they're foil, no one can fault you.
Yeah,
I feel like
beggars can't be choosers, right?
Right. and how sad that Doctor Doom has not really been portrayed very well in movies, and it's just the worst. The Marvel universe really has to get on that.
If Marvel really wants to redeem themselves for the 2 bad Fantastic Four movies, like, I'm telling you right now, Viggo Mortensen, I want Aragon himself to be Doctor Doom.
Oh, that sounds good.
That would be my ideal choice.
That sounds good. Oh, yeah, there was this big splash at the tournament, like way back when it was like just around Marvel Origins, I think. Somebody splashed in Shimmer, the...
Oh, yeah, the fearsome foe?
Yeah.
Whatever.
And people were going nuts that this guy splashed Shimmer for like the added stall. With the robots, and I assume with the overloads and the.
Let me tell you, I play a good amount of Doombots in my Doom deck. Let me tell you, both the Origins and the Heralds of Galactus one.
So good
because they're army, so why not?
The gold standard for Reign of Terror. I believe I said what Reign of Terror did. I think.
Right. Yeah, we talked about it.
Okay. So the gold standard for Reign of Terror is double Reign of Terroring. That is absolutely the gold standard. So one Reign of Terror is gonna bounce a 1 cost into 2 costs, which would be the combined cost of 3, and then your second Reign of Terror is going to be hitting the 3 cost itself, which wipes the board clean and resets your opponent at 4 cost and higher.
Right.
Super important that you, even in Crisis Doom and things like that, you have to set up for the double Reign of Terror. It's going to make your life a lot easier. So if you're not doing that, I implore you to go ahead. Try it. You're never going to go back on it once you realize you can do that.
Yeah, just in case you didn't say it, play only from your hand and only if you control Doctor Doom. Return any number of target characters with a combined cost of 3 or less to their owner's hands.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I can always count on you.
Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much the deck. And did you still want to talk about the rotation in this episode, or is it just pretty straightforward?
Yeah, let's cut to the rotation. Okay, so our rotation, it's actually really simple, but there's a couple things to keep in mind. Zazala, Queen Bee. She says whenever somebody leaves play, whenever a character leaves play during the combat phase, that extends further to just going to the KO pile. So the character doesn't have to actually die, right? It can just leave play, which means that our Reign of Terrors need to be done during the combat phase, right? So here's the rotation. We've got turn 1, we're just going to get out of Moloids or Illusionary Warrior or Boris. Ideally, that's what we want to do, okay, is Boris, ideally. But the cool thing is we've got turns 1 and turn 2 to mulligan and to draw additional cards to try and get that Boris on board. This is why we have so many Illusionary Warriors, is because on turn 2, if we have him in play, we can use secret files and we can search for an affiliated character. It doesn't just have to be Injustice Gang, which means that we can fetch out Boris and go ahead and play him on turn 2 if we don't have him. So turn 1, some type of combination of Moloids, Illusionary Wars, or Boris. And then turn 2, if we can, we're going to pick up the spare out of the 2 out of 3 and play the other 2, right? So by turn 2, we should have 1 Moloids, 1 Illusionary Warriors, or 1 Boris. Or 2 Illusionary Warriors and 1 Boris. Or 2 Moloids and 1 Boris. If we're lucky enough. Either way is fine. We move into turn 3. Ideally, turn 3, we want to play Zazala, Queen Bee, in the hidden area. Okay? And this is going to help us set up to Reign of Terror on turn 4. So now we move on to turn 4. We go ahead and play Doctor Doom. We double Reign of Terror during the combat phase, right? Which is really important because when we do it during the combat phase, we've got 3 characters that have left play. And Zazala is going to burn your opponent for 3 triggers, right? So it should be 6 endurance loss if that all pans out the way we're thinking. And then the board should be relatively cleared up, and we should just be looking at a 4-cost character on our opponent's end, which is pretty sweet. By then, we should be flipping up for the Glory of Doom and Master of Puppets. I don't like to flip up Devil's Due at this point because I don't want to give my opponent a target, an unnecessary target for a Have a Blast or a Death of the Dream. I like to just do all of this in one fell swoop, right? So when I flip Devil's Due, I like to trigger everything at once before my opponent gets to get off a removal ability, right? If we've got Teamwork, we're going to be using that. Enemy of My Enemy, Secret Files, this is all going to be setting up for our turn 5, which hopefully in a perfect world is going to be the kill turn. Now we have Doctor Doom, we've got some Moloids, right? We've got Zazala. If we need to, and we're smart, we should have discarded Moloids to Enemy of My Enemy from our hand, from any spares, to fetch out Tattooed Man, because then we can exhaust Doctor Doom and is sometime within the appropriate part of when we're supposed to do this, return Moloids to the field. So now we're starting to kind of grow things, but our opponent, when they go to attack us, I mean, it doesn't really matter because, yeah, they can stun us, we can reinforce, whatever, but ideally, because we double Reign of Terror, we can select the 1 card that they stunned as what we keep during the recovery phase. So we actually haven't lost out on any board presence or anything like that, right? So now we go in Tattooed Man, right? Tattooed Man goes in turn 5. We're going to be using Devil's Due. We're going to KO Moloids to Tattooed Man, making him +1/+1, right? And once he leaves, Master of Puppets should burn them for a little bit, but Zazala won't go off just yet. We want to do this because we can exhaust Doctor Doom and return Moloids from the KO pile to play. We can only do this during the build phase. That's why we can't do it during the combat phase to go ahead and take advantage of Zazala, right? And I know that I'm saying a lot, so just bear with me because this is basically all just building up to dumping a ton of stuff on Tattooed Man and burning your opponent, right? So we just kind of cheated an additional +1/+1 counter, and we can now move on to the combat phase. And during the combat phase is when we're going to go all in and kind of team attack with multiple of our guys. We can do this 2 ways. We can team attack with all the little guys and break through with Tattooed Man, or we can attack with Tattooed Man and rush through with the little guys. You're just going to have to determine what's best for you at the time. But just remember that when I'm going in on Tattooed Man, after my guys have attacked, right, I'm going to sack everything with Devil's Due to start stacking those counters on Tattooed Man, right? So let's say Doctor Doom left, 3 Moloids left, right? And maybe an Illusionary Warrior or something like that. Now we've got 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 counters on Tattooed Man, and the only thing that's on the board is Tattooed Man and Zazala in the hidden area, The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove all of the counters from Tattooed Man, and we're going to search our deck for that many copies of Moloids or Illusionary Warriors and cheat them into play. Then we go to attack again, if we can. And but ideally what we're going to do is we're going to trigger Devil's Due by sacrificing all those guys again and burning our opponent again. So this is going to be quite a bit of damage coming at your opponent's face that your opponent can't just pathetic attempt once and deal with and get rid of, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Mr. Sinister and things like that go, Tattoo Man can easily just run into Mr. Sinister or anybody else that's trying to like stifle the effect of Tattooed Man.
And we're talking about the 5-drop Mr. Sinister, the no team affiliation one from Evolution, is it?
I think so. Yeah. That or really anybody that you feel like is putting a damper on being able to burn the opponent in any way. We're gonna have so many army characters that we can just team attack and we'll be good to go.
Right.
Honestly, that's about what we're looking at. If we can't win on turn 5, just kind of keep the counters going, and the next turn when you recover, you just follow the exact same trend. And my advice to you is basically this. It's just like Magic the Gathering. If you guys play Magic the Gathering, when you're playing aggro or when you're playing bird or goblins or anything like that, every 1 point of damage counts. So if you miss a trigger, if you miss your opportunity, you have to take it very personally. Like, I just lost because I missed this trigger, right? So really, really keep that in mind when you're attempting to go off with this. You really have to pay attention to maximizing your damage. And that means Reign of Tearing at the proper time during the combat phase, right? So you can burn your opponent for 2. That means making sure Master of Puppets is online. That means activating Dr. Doom when you have to cheat in certain cards. Honestly, if you sit here and you solitaire this deck, meaning just playing it by yourself,
or goldfish, as people also refer to it.
yeah, you can get really good with this deck pretty easily. But yeah, that's about the gist of it, to be honest. I mean, I can't really think of anything else. I know that there's a small trick with Dr. Doom, Richard's rival. Just make sure that you don't trap yourself with Boris and Dr. Doom, right? So Dr. Doom should come into play. His ability goes on the stack. You search your deck for a plot twist and put it on top, right? Well, if you don't KO to cheat that into play and you activate Boris, then you have wasted an ability because that plot twist you put on top of your deck just gets shuffled back in. So what I've seen some people do is play Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is now in play, recruited, and his effect is on the stack or the chain or whatever. We're going to activate Boris, and then we're going to search first. And go ahead and grab that plot twist card, and then Dr. Doom's ability is going to go off, putting the plot twist on top. So you're going to get to fetch 2 different plot twists, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest with you. That's about all of the advice that I can give because the deck is that straightforward. So just solitaire it. Shoot us any questions that you have. Comment any questions that you have about like anything that wasn't clarified very well. But I think we have some FAQs, don't we?
Yes, that's the next section of our episode. We're going to do our frequently asked questions, or FAQs, as you mentioned, right now. So unless you're done with your rotation, you're ready to move on?
I think I'm done with my rotation. I think I've said pretty much everything that needs to be said, for sure.
All right, so now we come to our frequently asked questions section of this episode. And we actually did something different for this episode. We actually got some questions from members of the community that, we asked, hey, what questions do you guys want to hear on the next episode? So we actually got a bunch of questions from people in the community, and thank you all who submitted the questions. It really helps us out. And also, I just want to note that some of the questions these people have asked are going to be similar to what we've talked about in previous episodes as well, but, we do also have a couple of different ones. Okay, we have 3 questions from Chris Tillison. And again, if I'm pronouncing any of your names incorrectly, I do apologize. The first question is, what turn does this deck usually win by?
That's a good question.
And I think you answered that turn 5, right? Is when
turn 5 is best case. You're not going to win before turn 5. I can tell you that.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, Tattooed Man is like the glue. That I don't see any way that you can win before turn 5. Turn 5 is ideal. Turn 6 is like that's kind of the range. Turn 5 to 6, but I like to try and race Human Torch. I don't like that guy.
Oh yeah.
Even though I can team attack and I can still be fine if I'm on evens. Yeah, turn 6 at the latest. If you haven't won by turn 6, you're doing something wrong. And turn 5 is a good one. Yeah.
Okay, the second question on the list also comes from Chris, and the question is, why run Illusionary Warriors over Infernal Minions? And I have the card Infernal Minions right in front of me, so just to let everybody know what it does. It comes from Justice League of America. It is a 1/1 character. It has the Injustice Gang team affiliation. Its card text is concealed optional. Whenever Infernal Minions become stunned, you may KO it. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target non-army Injustice Gang character you control.
That is a fantastic question. Okay. All right, Chris. Here we go, man.
And also, this is an army card if I didn't mention it too.
Yes, it is. Okay. It is an army card. All right. So this is my thought process behind it. I don't think that you're wrong. I think that it just doesn't matter. And the reason why I say this is I understand the idea behind like better to need it, not have it, than have it, not need it. Or yeah, I said that backwards, didn't I? I did say that backwards. That's embarrassing. But you know what I mean, right? I understand that thought process, but to me, that's all it really is. So Illusionary Warriors, I've never used his effect. Maybe I've used it once in all the times that I've played this deck. It just doesn't matter, right? The neg2 attack this attack, right? So from my understanding, the idea is if Infernal Minions puts a +1/+1 counter on Tattooed Man, why run that? Why not just run that instead of Illusionary Warriors, right? So the Devil's Due lets you KO a character you control to put a +1/+1 counter on a Doom character, and you can do this as many times as you want, right? The problem with Infernal Minions is that this effect doesn't stack, and you obviously, I think Chris is pretty knowledgeable with like rules and stuff like that. He's commented on some things before.
Okay.
So this isn't really meant to Barney style this in any way, but obviously for the other readers and stuff, watchers and listeners, when you kamikaze this the Infernal Minions into something, and you can choose to KO him. When you choose to KO him, you can't turn around and use Devil's Due to then KO him as well to put 2 +1/+1 counters on Tattooed Man. And you're using Devil's Due to just KO like your whole board anyway, except for Zazala and Tattooed Man, and then recheating them into play. The second idea is that if I were to go all in and team attack, the opponent can only choose one character to stun, right? So
Right.
it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me to say, oh yeah, we're running Infernal Minions like to do this, because you're just never going to use the effect over Devil's Due. And if you're in a situation that the third scenario that I can see this question being brought up is being in a situation where you don't have a Devil's Due, right? And so now you've got maybe 4 or 5 or 6 Infernal Minions, and you're like, okay, I'm going to kamikaze each Infernal Minion into something and intentionally stun it so that I can KO it and put a +1/+1 counter on Tattooed Man.
Right.
That would be okay, but in my testing, if you don't have Devil's Due, you're not going to win. Because in a perfect world, and if you want to go that route, why not just run 17 Illusionary Warriors? Or, I'm sorry, 17 of the Infernal Minions, right? But unfortunately, we're going to have a mix of Infernal Minions and Moloids here, right? So it's just not going to do anything. It's not going to help. Devil's Due KOing everything at one time is going to be where it's at. But it's not wrong to run Infernal Minions over Illusionary Warriors. I think I'm just stating the fact that you're just never going to use it. But either way is fine. There's no real reason, to be honest, Chris. I guess that's my point. But the reason why there's no real reason is because of what was said earlier.
So our third question also comes from Chris. Who do you play first on turn 3, Dr. Doom or Zazala? Now, can I take a crack at this really quick?
You can. No, please. Go ahead. Please.
So the thing that when you're going through the deck profile, the first thing that came to my mind is I felt like you wanted to play Dr. Doom on turn 4 because Reign of Terror is a 4 threshold cost plot twist. So you probably want to, and you can only play it when you recruit Doctor Doom, right? So I
Right.
would think turn 4 is when you would want to play Doctor Doom for that reason, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I That was actually exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
And the build, if you're choosing not to run Reign of Terror, which I think is a huge mistake,
hmm
but let's say you're running Mystical Paralysis, right? Instead, or I don't know, something like that, just to kind of stall them out, which you
hmm
totally can. You would want to play. You can play Doctor Doom on turn 3, and then on turn 4, Paralysis something. But unfortunately, when we play Doctor Doom on turn 3, we can't play Reign of Terror on turn 4, and Zazala burning them for 6 after double Reign of Terror, right? On
hmm
turn 4 is really good. So we can't really do that the other way around, unfortunately.
Well, and also the good thing about playing Doctor Doom on turn 4, for an example, is you now have, turn 4 you play him, and then you can play one of your one cost characters like Boris or the
Mhm.
Moloids or the Illusionary Warriors if necessary, too.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, which is actually something I'm glad you mentioned that. That's actually something I kind of forgot to mention in the curve. Obviously, you want to play Boris early if you can,
Right.
and you want to just dump Moloids and just try and flood the board. But yeah, absolutely. Turn 4, you got that extra one slot that you can drop an army character or Boris. Yep.
Question 4 comes from Norman, and I know I'm going to pronounce his last name terribly, but it's, I believe his last name is pronounced Halem Estewan. So sorry, Norman, if I pronounced your last name wrong. But if and also for some of you people, Norman is also very active on the group. He's one of our international players from Germany, and
Sweet.
his question that he asked: what type of deck would be the most challenging matchup for this Moloids Burn deck? So I guess in previous episode we said stuff like what are the bad matchups,
Mm.
So I guess that's kind of what the same question is here.
Okay. From the top tier like Golden Age perspective, um, some of the decks that are going to be the most challenging for this matchup is going to be Quick Voltage,
Okay.
right, or High Voltage, or however you want to say it. This is the one where you're basically burning your opponent faster than what this deck can keep up with, because this deck is trying to win on turn 5, and this deck doesn't really have all that much like interruption except for Reign of Terror on turn 4. And I got to tell you, I don't know. Have you ever played against like a tier 1 Golden Age high voltage deck?
I haven't actually,
It
because
is it's a
because a lot of
great.
the people in my play group don't really play that deck, so it's kind of hard to play against something that your friends don't have the deck of to begin with.
Oh, okay. I just want you to imagine just being at like 20 health on like turn 3. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that deck it hits so hard, and it hits without really dealing with combat, which really sucks. So
hmm
using flamethrower and things like that, and abusing that mechanic is really really rough.
Right.
So if you look at the list, we're so committed to these combo pieces that we don't run pathetic attempt, we don't run omnipotence, we don't run um, any type of removal
Right.
um, for plot twister locations. So from a tier 1 Golden Age perspective, that is rough. Boast and Buddies is rough as well. Reign of Terror is really difficult to get around, like things like Body Slide and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Boast and Buddies can definitely put a damper on things, especially negating Reign of Terror. Right, Reign of
Mm-hmm.
Terror is like your only out, and it's the only thing that can target anything, and your opponent will almost always have an answer if they're a good Boast and Buddies player and just blow you out. Turn 5 for Boast and Buddies is way too long
Right.
to give them before you win. So that's
Gotcha.
an issue.
And in case Bosom Buddies is the Cable Deadpool deck, right?
It is, yeah, with the seems like infinite team attack.
Right.
Yeah, that's rough, and we don't run Caliban, so it's hard to shut that down. Convex is the same thing. Convex gives this deck a hard time because it's just more efficient, it's faster,
Mm-hmm.
it wins a little bit differently, but again, there's nothing that we can do. So basically, combo decks that we can't interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the cool thing is this deck does beat other decks like Mega City and things like that, right? This deck ruins it, but it has the same weaknesses as Mega City in the sense that we really don't have much interaction with what the opponent's doing. But I and I hope that this kind of sparks some intrigue for season 2 for
Okay.
us when we go into like the tier 1.5 decks. Let me name some decks from tier 1.5 that isn't the top 10 Golden Age that hurt this deck, because I think that people may be wanting that information as well. Okay.
Okay, so this is a preview of season 2.
Preview.
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Deep Green. Deep Green will absolutely run over this deck.
Is that the Hulk deck?
No, Deep Green is using locations. It uses Ahmed Simsera, right?
Oh, okay.
And it uses Merlin from
Oh yeah. The
the
4-drop.
Superman set. Yeah, with the Cosmic. And so what winds up happening is Merlin just kind of KOs Azala, and then we're good. And then it follows up with Ronin. Ronin is another huge problem for this deck.
Okay.
Yeah, are you familiar with that guy, the Cosmic Ronin from Heralds of Galactus?
Yeah, the 4-drop, right?
Woo-wee. Yeah. So Ronin, your opponent can't flip. I think it's Plot Twist and Location. I don't. I didn't get to prepare for any of this, so I don't have all the
It's
information.
okay. I'll put the card up on the YouTube channel so people can look at it.
Okay. So Ronin is miserable. Ronin is not fun to play against, because what happens in Deep Green is we take Ronin and we swap Ronin with Ahmed using Rook control, and so now Ronin is in the hidden area. Yeah, after we team them up, obviously, he's in the hidden area with the Cosmic counter, and now if I'm piloting this deck that you're seeing here, all of a sudden I can't flip anything.
Right.
And that's a problem. The deck also runs like Death of the Dream and stuff like that. Oh man, it's miserable. What's another good one? Let's see. Decks like that, KOing decks. I don't see Hulk as being that big of a problem.
Okay.
Because we can sack everything to Tattooed Man, and Hulk can just bash him a couple times, and I think we can still live long enough to combo off and burn them out. Hulk isn't that big of a deal. And Sentinels can actually be a Sentinel Curve can actually be a hard time. It can give you a really hard time.
Okay.
Because you know that card, I think it's like Micro Sentinels, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you can start infecting the 1-cost army characters with the Micro Sentinels before turn 5, and then all of a sudden Tattooed Man comes out and he doesn't really have anything to help beef him up, because all of your 1-cost characters died from the infection of the Micro Sentinels. Yeah, that's rough. A lot of decks that can negate Zazala, right, is an issue. All you really have to do is KO Zazala, and the deck kind of falls apart. But just remember, when you're facing against this deck, to answer Norman's question, when you're facing against this deck, it's more of the key cards that are the issue rather than decks as a whole. So Death of the Dream, right? We can use Death of the Dream to shut Moloids Burn down. Only Human. Woo! Only Human works really good.
Yep.
That's a really good card against this deck.
So talking about the certain cards kind of actually leads us into our next question on the list here. So this comes from Jonas Dick's chat, who's also one of our international players from Germany, and he actually asked 2 questions, but one of his questions was what are some of the bad matchups, which we kind of already went over with Norman's question. So his other question was, how do you stop this deck from splashing or spamming the whole field and burning in by turn 5? And we kind of talked about earlier, Flame Trap is also really good against this deck. You were mentioning like Only Human and some of those other cards as well just now.
It is, yeah.
Now, one thing that you said when we're talking about the Hulk deck, that Hulk doesn't really affect this deck very well. Well, I have to disagree with you on that. I know we agree on a lot of things, but I kind of disagree with you on that. only because I think the 4-drop Hulk Green Scar is really good against this deck if he gets stunned. And in case you don't remember what he is, he's the one that comes in with a gamma counter, and if he gets stunned, you remove the gamma counter, and I believe you stun all 2s or less on the field.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah,
And
so
I have a caveat with this.
okay.
I would love this discussion. I have a caveat with this.
Okay.
So you're correct. The issue is that Hulk can't really be stunned attacking a singular character against us.
Right.
Now I think you can, like, what is it?
Yeah.
Is there a card that can stun a Hulk? You
Yes,
can stun your own
there's,
Hulk.
and I have the deck, and I know the deck very well, and
Okay.
we will definitely be
Awesome.
doing an episode
Awesome.
of this at some point. But you have a
So yeah, you're right. If you can do that, you're right.
yeah,
But
you have a location, and you have the card Righteous Anger, which he becomes
okay.
stunned and he can't be targeted by effects for the turn.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, no, that's good. And my caveat was basically this: Flame Trap, all of that stuff. Firestar, the girl that can stun all the 2-drops.
Hot stuff. Yep.
Yeah, hot stuff. There's a lot of really great cards against this deck. The problem is that some people don't know the timing of it. So I guess that's my only caveat. So if Tattooed Man is in play and we move to the combat phase, and you go, or and you go and do your thing, or even if Tattooed Man is even if we're not in our combat phase yet, just remember that when you go to stun everybody and we're on turn 5, and you've let it get this far, I can respond by going ahead and KOing everything, putting the counters on Tattooed Man. Tattooed Man gets ridiculous, and then going off after the Flame Trap or after the Green Scar and all that stuff happens. So here's the trick. The trick is going to be to using these abilities on turn 4. And I guess this is my answer to how do you stop the deck splashing the whole field on turn 5. You do it on turn 4 before Tattooed Man comes out, because now if I go to kill the whole board, you can only keep one character. You can Devil's Due and put all these plus counters on like Doctor Doom or something, but it won't matter, because once Tattooed Man comes out, he'll have 2+1/+1 counters, and you'll only have a couple characters to sack and so now when you remove all the counters, he's only searching for 2, 3, or 4 characters, because you cleared the board, right?
Right.
And so that's really important, because that may give you just enough time to play like Human Torch on turn 6. You're trying to live to turn 6 if you're playing against this deck. That's all you're really trying to do. Drop the Human Torch, only Human Tattooed Man, use KO abilities on Devil's Due and things like that, or the team up. You kill the team up, I can't splash Tattooed Man at all, because Devil's Due only lets me put
on a Doom character.
+1 counter exactly on a Doom character. And so by shutting down the individual pieces, you can actually completely stop the field from being splashed. So if you're going to Flame Trap, if you're going to Hulk Green Scar, if you're going to do all that stuff, you can't stun Hulk Green Scar combating me before turn 5, because my characters aren't big enough. So if you're going to stun him with an ability, do it on turn 4. You'll shut me down completely, and I'll probably auto lose, because I won't be able to keep up, and I'll be winning by turn 7 instead of turn 6. It'll delay me a turn, and that'll be too late. You'll just annihilate me, and I won't win.
Right, gotcha. Okay, and as usual with our FAQ section, we're going to conclude with the most famous question of all. Question 6. If you can allow 4 copies of one banned card in this deck, what would it be?
You ready? You ready for this?
All right, drum roll. Insert drum roll here.
Well, what's yours? What would be yours?
I'm biased, so
okay.
My answer is always going to be Overload. So
okay, yeah, Overload's good. Overload's good. Here we go. Valeria Von Doom, heir to Latveria. So good.
Ooh, that's a spicy one. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, so, that one's pretty good.
I would run Latveria Von Doom, and then I would replace my team up guys, the teamwork plot twist, with 2 copies of A Day Unlike Any Other.
Oh, that's the pay 3 endurance, turn it face down one from Avengers, right?
Yeah, and draw everything I need to combo off. That's what I would do. Obviously
that's probably the best answer you've given on on our podcast so far.
Oh, thanks.
That's really good. Like I puts my answer to shame for sure.
Sad.
Wow, that's a good one. And of course, we'll leave a description of the card on the YouTube channel if people want to read what it does, because I don't remember the text off the top of my head, which he does. But
I actually have it pulled up. Would you like to? Would you like for me to read it for the fans?
Sure,
Here we
we'll
go.
do it for you people.
So for you people, all right. One cost: Valeria Von Doom, heir to Latveria, totally banned from the Marvel's Heralds of Galactus set. It's a 1/1 with range. Doom Fantastic Four affiliate. You can discard a card rather than paying her recruit cost. So she's kind of like Aunt May Golden Oldie. You can just kind of cheat her in for free.
Right.
You are considered to control Doctor Doom. And whenever you play a plot twist from your resource row, draw a card and then discard a card.
Yep.
And when we mix this with a day unlike any other, we can cycle through large amounts.
So it's
of
like
our
pay
deck.
3, draw a card. Pay 3, draw a card.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I can't remember off the top of my head. You might hear some clicking. I want to look this up.
Okay.
Day unlike any other.
Sure, no problem.
I want to know what cost he is.
I think it's
team up.
I think it's a 2 or 3.
It's a 2 cost. That's so bonkers.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we can go put her in or cheat her in between 1 and 2, and then we can just consistently flip a day unlike any other like a million times and pay 3 endurance to find all of our combo pieces. And yeah, that's nuts, man. That's pretty ridiculous.
Okay, well, I think that's it for our questions, and I think that's going to be it for this episode. Jake, is there anything else that before we end it that you wanted to go over that we haven't had a chance to go over yet?
I do. I want to make an amendment to what I just said with
Okay.
the day unlike any other. I wouldn't replace the teamwork. I would actually just replace for the glory of Doom, because a day unlike any other is a team up, and I don't know why I didn't put that together. So if you want to play with band cards, you should probably have 4 Valerias, and then replace your for the glory of Doom with 4 a day unlike any others. And if you don't believe in ban lists, that is a deck for you. I am telling you what.
Oh, okay. Well, awesome. Thanks for clearing that up. So anyway, for our next episode, what we decided to do is we're now halfway through our top 8 Golden Age decks. And Jake and I were talking about maybe taking a break for one episode to talk about something else. Jake, is now a time that you would want to do that for the next episode?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, on the 5th episode, the next episode, we're going to kind of take a break from deck profiles. And we just wanted to do a general episode on Golden Age, as a whole. And Jake, what was the things you wanted to talk about?
Oh man, there's so much. I wanted to talk about the stigma surrounding Golden Age. I wanted to talk about a lot of negative things that I've heard about Golden Age with the later sets and Exiles and Pathetic Attempt, and I'd love to cover that.
Okay.
There's quite a bit. Maybe a little bit of the history on Golden Age. I don't know if we might be able to get around to that. Why the game died out. That would be another good one.
Okay.
Things like that. Just in general, man, Golden Age, because I think one of the big issues that we're running into is with Golden Age is I think people see all these cards and these decks and these combos, and it feels so impossible. It's like, I can't compete with this. And if they run Omnipotence, I just instantly lose. And yeah, deck choices are like that, but I just wanted to delve into it a little bit more on why people may feel like this and stuff like that.
Okay, so yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll do like a general Golden Age episode and talk about the things that you just mentioned. But after that, so I thought that our top 8 deck lists, I thought, the next deck that we do is we do Xbox, then Black Bamboo, and then Quick Voltage, and then the last one we'll talk about is the Combex deck.
Combex.
So I think, because that's what the order of votes was in, so I think we should definitely keep it. So sorry for all you Xbox people that gotta wait for another 2 episodes.
So sorry.
What
a good deck, man.
And you know what? I also want to mention, when I was checking out the polls, like Xbox was on the top at one point, but then Moloids Burn, they ended up making, got the most votes. But those two were like kind of up and down a lot, so a lot of people wanted to see Xbox a lot next too.
I wonder if I wonder if Moloids Burn made that because of the Doctor Doom and Injustice Gang team up like note that was put in there, or if it's
Possibly.
legitimately because people have heard of Moloids Burn and just wanted to check it out.
Well, I think also people like there's a lot of there's a lot of X-Men fans in the Facebook group, so I think a lot
Oh,
of
okay.
people wanted to look at that too. But yeah, so I guess that's the plan that we're gonna do for the rest of season one anyway. And then
Okay.
we got a lot of other cool stuff in store for future episodes as well. But for this episode, I think we're gonna end it there, unless there's anything you want to add.
I don't think so, man. I think anything that we would add can just be covered in the next Golden Age. We're gonna be talking a lot. I especially want to talk about the meta and all that. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good conversation. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you all for tuning in. And just a reminder, you can find us on YouTube, and you can also find the podcast on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, and we'll put links to those in the YouTube channel as well if you guys prefer those platforms over YouTube. And with that being said, I just want to say thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all next time.